Our final speaker is Dr. Eric So, who is a consultant and ethiologist in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, under the hospital authority. He was appointed as the Associate Director of the Multidisciplinary Simulation and Skills Centre in 2011 to oversee the overall centre's operation and accomplish its vision and mission. He has given valuable inputs into the planning and execution of simulation training activities and insights from evidence-based practice in simulation education throughout the years. In addition, he has been actively involved in research activities of the Multidisciplinary Simulation and Skills Centre, collaborating with interdisciplinary as well as external stakeholders at all levels in establishing and maintaining research projects on publishable standards. And I'm very impressed. I had a meeting recently with Dr. So and some colleagues of mine were there, and we were looking at some of the papers that he's produced with his colleagues. It's really first-rate, important contribution. His work, therefore, in simulation is world-class. And as I've just said, he has written many papers in simulation and handover. So let me now pass across to Dr. So, who will be talking about what could the training and administration teams do during COVID.
First, I must reiterate that our research paper is not first class as mentioned by Professor Watson. It is a flattery. We are just trying to do our very best within our limited resources and time. Personally, I just spent 20% of my full-time equivalent to work in the Simulation Training Center as Associate Director. 80% of my work is in operating theater for the administrative work as well as for the clinical work. My main interest is in cardiac anesthesia and orthopedic anesthesia. So I would like to thank again Professor Watson, Professor Oshipindi, and IRCAHC for the invitation. I would like to share with you three things in the following time. First, our work in the in one of the HA Simulation Training Center. Second, the challenge we face in training healthcare providers. Last, our response during the early COVID. I have nothing to declare, but I must disclose. But I must declare that I don't have the breadth and the depth of the knowledge as other scholars who have presented this morning and afternoon section. But I do have my experience and some of my observation and opinion after over 30 years of clinical work and 12 years as Associate Director of the Simulation Center. So these two pictures show a lot of changes of my parent hospitals and in its vicinity over the last 6 decades. Likewise, the training for healthcare workers has also been revolutionized in the same time. I'm going to borrow some concepts of movies and TV series to exemplify some of the challenges and ideas I'm going to present. The Good Doctor, Top Gun 2, Captain America Civil War, Inside Out. Then I'm going to focus on our center activities during the early COVID and some final thoughts. The Good Doctor is a TV series about an extremely talented autistic resident. My question is, the name is Good Doctor, but what constitutes and how to become a good doctor? So the Canadian professional body defines the attributes of a doctor from several aspects. To be a medical expert, you have to be a communicator, collaborator, leader, health advocate, scholar, as well as professional. It's never easy. And the next question is, what is the practice of medicine? The goal of healthcare efforts is effective and safe treatment of patients, and I think all of you will agree. It aims to provide rational, explainable therapy at any time. That aim implies a model of logical behavior which is always determined by reason. Therefore, medicine is an applied science with the objective of value-neutral truth. Unfortunately, despite all this ideology, we know that human behavior is a complex interaction of emotion, motivation, and reason. Value judgments affect application in focal particulars, and therefore human is an emotional being before a rational being, and there is no pure rational action. This is contrary to the public as well as strategy. Top Gun 2. Many people draw a lot of similarities between pilots and doctors. The similarity between these two professionals in terms of the cognitive workload, the teamwork required, psychological of human behavior under stress, organization, and other environmental and social confounding factors. I must say that as a doctor for so many years, I find our career is more like a jet fighter pilot than a civil aviation pilot. Of course, I prefer to look more like Tom Cruise than Tom Hanks. But I would like to highlight the story of Tom Hanks' movie Sully, if you have watched it. I haven't, but I know the story because it is based on the famous US Airways Flight 1549 incident happened in the year 2009. Tom Hanks was the protagonist who played the role of the captain pilot, Sullenberger. At that time, both the jet engine lost all the power shortly after takeoff from the airport, when flying birds were sucked into both engines. His appropriate and swift decision and response saved the lives of over 150 passengers and aircrew on the plane. The aviation authority carried out 13 simulation flights in flight simulators during the subsequent investigation, and I'm going to elaborate on this point, on this later. Please remember this for the time being. Just remember. From air, I go back to land. Our center is one of the 11 simulation training units in the hospital authority. It is the only accredited training center in Hong Kong, and among those well-established university-based regional training center getting more than one accreditation criteria in Asia, we are a hospital-based center with 3 accredited criteria. Okay, so before I'm going to change the topic, please tell me you can understand what is shown in the next slide. You can choose Chinese or English. Oh, you smile, then you know it. You're fine. Okay, so what can we understand? What can we understand? If you read word by word, it doesn't make sense. We understand because of the phenomenon or the term called hypoglycemia. So it draws a similarity of hypoglycemia. It reflects the plasticity and the potential of human being, the human brain, its ability to understand words when the first and the last letters are stable, but the intermediate letters are scrambled yes and no, but you have to in some order and read the word as a whole unit, not letter by letter. So our brain can read and comprehend individual words as a whole, and then we have the editing process to make the words fit our expectation and projection. So if our brain has so much potential, why so many incidents happen in our daily practice? I still have no answer, but I know another point is that another important brain function that allows to read the previous scrambled message is called chunking. Chunking is a cognitive shortcut to divide random information into meaningful parts, so that the information can be recalled more effectively. Indeed, it broke the meaningful information to clusters, and then put back into the right sequence again. So the meaning of the hypoglycemia and chunking to our perception of the world is that the visual world is perceived by our senses and then simultaneously constructed by our brain to make sense. And based on the pattern recognition, previous knowledge and experience, our brain can join the dots out of order and fill in the blanks by seeing the bigger picture. Therefore, you can see that our human brain in this are really quite marvelous. But it has its weakness because it means that we reconstruct and interpret the world according to our own mental model. This is why superheroes in Captain America Civil War, although they have the same vision and mission, they can still fight fiercely against one another due to a difference in the mental models. What can we do? Well, at most, we have to listen before we can understand. Listening is more challenging than talking. We have talked quite a lot about the handover. Handover is also very challenging because when we try to listen or when we try to talk effectively, we have to get out of our emotional basement first before we can return to the rational decision as quickly as possible to make a productive thinking as well as sound judgment. We all of us here sitting here, we listen to understand, to discover, to develop, and to agree on a mutual consensus before we work together. I think every one of you have this experience when you work with another person or work with. So people are constantly reading each other and are more likely to listen when they find they are in the reverse, when they are in the same flow of communication with others. So the next movie is Inside Out. We know the influence of emotion in decision making, and our brain is versatile. So for our center, when we start the training, we focused on this area. We focus on the assertiveness. We adopt the movie Inside Out to depict the authority gradient as the Berlin Wall of patient safety, which can hinder the seniors from hearing other team members. This is very important. So how did we engage our hospital staff to make them aware of this? So our directors, our center directors, except me, because I refuse to do so. And simulation specialist Apis, who is also sitting here right now, they dress up as the characters from the movie in a hilarious and comic way to promote this idea in our hospital, and we put this in our annual dinner at that time, long before COVID. So put it as a promotion. So we must admit that at that time we are relatively new in this area of training from the perspectives of clinician. Therefore, we have to define among ourselves what is speaking up. we knew the purpose of speak up is to address the ambiguity. It's not equivalent to saying no. We have to, when we make assertiveness, we mean to question the intentions and actions of others in doubt. Ensure that the same page of decision as all we need to be convinced by fact and not forced by authority. So the concerns are being heard, understood, and adequately considered by the team leader. And based on honesty and fairness, each team member can contribute to the leader's opinion formation before decision making for the best patient safety. And we did a survey, as I mentioned previously, in the question period of speak up culture with the ICU staff, with the IRCA, HC, and it was one of our first international publications. Unfortunately, tragedies still happened, and a couple of maternal deaths occurred in our hospital during this period, which ended up as coroner's inquests, which just finished. The natural public question under all this news, they will say, any malpractice, any negligence by the doctor? And sadly speaking, contrary to general presumption and impression, many defending or accused doctors, and indeed the victims, in addition to the demise of patients and their relatives' lives. These doctors may not be the elite of the team, but many of them are smart, capable, committed, and care about doing their best. Unfortunately, they may work in an unfamiliar human condition with poor teamwork, poor training, and organizational weakness. All these led to the unintended poor performance and with just unlikely temporal combination of contributing factors, and it breached the defensive barriers at different levels that was built into our healthcare system, and they act as the last trigger for the deadly outcome. So I can tell you that in our career life, many of these errors in healthcare are not because of poor skill and knowledge. You can recall I asked you to remember this slide. I show this slide again because I want to draw your attention to one point. On the lower left corner, 13 simulation flights in flight simulator during the investigation by aviation authority for this incident was carried out. And there are no such reproducible and repeatable simulations with this level of frequency and intensity that I'm aware of in any medical instance. Human bodies are not machines. Investment in aviation, investigation, and policy change afterwards have never been comparable in health. Medical expert witnesses are different from aviation engineers, as randomized controlled trials are so much different from physics principles. And patients are more heavily involved than passengers inside these incidents. Fatigue and multitasking are so frequently mentioned in the aviation investigation for these incidents, but I have never heard of them as contributing factors to any medical incidents or being seriously addressed or remedied. But in fact, they do exist. Therefore, in addition to traditional clinical skill training, our center also focuses on personal skills, communication, teamwork, and leadership, cognitive skills, situation awareness, planning, decision-making, and task management. Hopefully, we can do a little better for our Human psychologic makes the situation more complicated because when we face a problem, it is a combination of cognition, emotion, and motivation that affect our ultimate behavior and action. And we all know that crisis is not, we don't have much time to think about, and it is a complex interplay of rationality, mental models of situation, individual emotions, and teamwork. Communication is the only linking bridge in crisis, and includes verbal and non-verbal content, the relationship among the teams as well as with the patient, the perception filters in each one of us, and how we transmit and receive the information after our individual reconstruction. So only if communication pattern has been practiced repeatedly in everyday life and stressful situation, can it become a third part of the private messaging and decision making in critical situations. And this is what we are trying to do in our simulation center. We design our training from individual skills in virtual reality task trainers, CRM in teamwork for complex procedures, patient and staff communication like breaking bad news and handover. For CRM training, we focus on 4 areas as we believe they are more important for successful healthcare teamwork. ACRS is the acronym. Assertiveness, to speak up for patient safety. Communication, we have talked about briefly this morning, is a S-bar, close to communication. Leadership, able to respect and value inputs from each other, and we are talking a bit more like appreciative leadership. And situation awareness, the alert of the red flag. And then, not long, when we started our training pattern, and pretty soon the COVID-19 came, and this time we test our center whether we could walk the talk, whether we ourselves could practice in our center in crisis what we are teaching. And now we come back. The first patient in Hong Kong arrived in our hospital on the 13th January 2020, more than 2.5 years ago. The Hong Kong government raised the Hong Kong to a serious response level, and quickly hospital authority head office instructed all training centers to prepare for training course on infectious disease safety practice. And then the involvement of our center, quality and safety division, the nursing division, and other high-stake departments like the intensive care unit, were all involved in the curriculum design, and with dedicated simulation scenarios tailored for various high-stress areas like the ICU, A&E, emergency department. And then we have to suspend all the routine and scheduled training services to be replaced by infectious control training courses. First, roll out to high-risk area in phase 1, and then to the general 1 area in phase 2. The painful experience back in 20 years ago made us not to underlook on the possible challenge at that time. Our aim is to train both the knowledge, attitude, and skill for high-risk aerosol generation procedure. We have to focus our resources and time on one particular high-risk procedure that has killed quite a number of us back in 2002. So I will talk a bit more about the training, just a rough idea. So MDSSC trial, what does it mean? It means we have a clear segregation of our responsibility. So we have the AXO with the administration and third with the finance, the research and innovation, which provides the field, and then the training and system integration, the engine. And it is a close collaboration and function of these 3 pillars that help to move our center forward. Having said that, with the directors in the middle of the triangle. If you could recall, the tenet of our center leadership is never hierarchical, directive, or controlling, as we mentioned in the previous section. In previous section of interprofessional collaboration. So we, through communication in our center, we align the purpose, meaning, and value. After we assign specific role and purpose for each member of our training center team, all the individual efforts can converge onto the collective activities, and we are quite confident that once every one of us know the role and the purpose and the duty, they will work close together. So this is a graph. I'm not going to great detail, but this time the arrangement of training was, we have a two approach. One is bottom-up training approach, and the other one is top-down. This one is instruction from the head office, so it is a top-down pathway. But it's lucky that each hospital has its own governance on designing the training course. The preparatory time was short, and the level of impact by this novel agent at that time by COVID-19 was uncertain. So the anxiety level was quite high, but we had to take up the responsibility because we know that we have to build up the first line of defense in the hospital. Therefore, we set positive, specific, structured goals and prioritize them with a realistic time frame and possibility, because we don't know the contagious and the speed of the spread of the disease at that time. So we get everyone on the same page, the common goal, acknowledged, and followed by planning. We all share the same mental model in the center. So just a brief so all the training is the same: analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. The center training team, we work with the other major stakeholders like quality and safety and the infectious control team. They were responsible for the design of the curriculum, standardize and unify the practice and the skills, and then they make sure that the training environment for the physical as well as the psychological vitality. They evaluate the feedback to modify the scenario, and they prioritize the training phase for different areas. So the training course was prepared inside our center from the planning, implementation to the evaluation phase. So the people we are standing to design to refine the course, and these are the actual carrying out of the training process. Very soon another crisis occur, which can be a great threat to the success of our training course. This is a PPE shortage, if you could recall. It could stop all our training activities, and we need them. And we need them because we have to maintain the realism in our simulation training, because scanning and degarning steps are very essential training component of our training course. So once again, collaborative and collateral effort from the teams in our center work. So you can imagine that the administrative team, in order to provide administrative support for the training, we also and apart from we engineer the center to stop all the routine training and to make space and arrange for the ad hoc infectious control training. Now they have to try to sort out the PPE shortage by PPE DIY, by application of the 3D printing, working closely with the Polytechnic University again. And then we have to trial use by our end user to get their feedback and then to modify the product. So you can see the DIY by the administrative team, all the people speak together. The educators are outside carrying out the training of the hospital staff. The administrative team sitting in another area in the center to preparing the PPE replacement. After we have finished the product, we ask the frontline worker, the end user, to get their feedback to refine and modify the DIY work. So I must say that at the same time, we directors as a clinician, we are very busy in our clinical specialty. So the center teams were quite automatic, and under our center manager will report regularly to us for major insight to decision making. And we must be we are very grateful that we are tied down by our different clinical duties, and we only entrusted our center running to our manager as well as your team. So gradually, we have find the flow plate replacement for different parts of our PPE. So one of the resources is cobalt. So we have online order some replacement like this one. So this we also work closely. This is the innovation center of Polytechnic University, and they help us to prepare some 3D printed face shield. The hard work of the administrative team pay off, and we successfully reserved it for use and find the high fidelity replacement products for good quality training. The training and the administrative team of the center showed great teamwork in this critical period, and the importance for the continual training and for the greater protection of the staff and their safety at work. So we get the notice to start the training at late January, just shortly before the Chinese New Year. And then we started the training. We have continued communication during the Chinese New Year period. And shortly, almost immediately after the Chinese New Year, we come together and started the training course. And within 6 weeks, we have conducted over 100 training sections and more than coverage of 80% of the hospital staff, involving over 140 hospital staff. So we are quite happy that within a short period, we can finish quite this amazing task with all the effort from different clinical departments as well as our hospital center. And even more encouraging is that the effort and the work were not ignored, but acknowledged by the hospital, and it is published in our bulletin of the hospital. To go a step further, our research officer helped the team, including the members of the administrative team, to publish the work during this COVID period in different conferences and journals. We know that the teamwork and communication training healthcare is a daunting task under the current practice culture. We wish to have a magic bullet, but we don't. Medicine, the dictum, the how, and even now is first to know how. Therefore, we have to be very careful in what we are saying, because the words we use are showing how we think and how we feel. They carry vibrations in the communication. With a careful selection of words, it helps to communicate, build relationship and trust, and reduce conflict, which can resonate in higher feelings. And I think I remember one of the speaker mentioned about trust among the team. And with the trust, then we can build the teamwork, collaboration, partnership, and then go a step further into innovation. And we all have the opportunity to nurture a positive outlook for tomorrow amidst this pandemic in the way we communicate. certificates and those certificates. Having said that, we still have to go back to this whole graph. We have to handle our psychological with great care, because our cognition can easily become submissive to our emotions and motivation, which then dictates our behavior, despite any kind of training. If you are not aware of this, training can easily be defeated. Because human logic reasoning is very fragile and vulnerable in face of the emotions and motivation. The latter two can so easily be exploited and manipulated to override our cognition. The infamous Cambridge Analytica is a very good example. What I want to say is, I wish scholars, including you, can give us shrewd insights into the science and psychology of human brain. Show us how to apply the knowledge you acquire, theory and understanding, to improve healthcare quality and our team performance. To take us beyond our current limitations in a collective instead of a piecemeal manner. Not to mention it in an unscrupulous way, as what the scandal Cambridge Analytica demonstrated. To sum up our experience with our center team during the COVID period, we should be mindful of our message because interpretation aligns with action. We should try our best to display curiosity, because we should let others know we care about their ideas, feelings, and about them as a team. And truly listen and understand their points of view. Help others to understand how they can best contribute and what are their roles. And once their role is defined, they can frame their conversation accordingly. Last but not the least, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my omnipotent MTSSC team for their amazing and wonderful work and efforts all the way before COVID and up to now. They have given me a truly memorable experience of working with a group of vehement colleagues. Without them, my working experience would have been blank, and I would have nothing to share with you. This photo was taken when our team won the International Exhibition of Invention of Geneva Silver Prize back in 2008. And thank you for all your attention and invitation. I'm really looking forward to future collaboration with anyone. Thank you.